Welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions, an occasional program for our members of SmithWeekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position, along with your favorite beverage, to enjoy the discussion. We remind our audience to examine the show notes attached to each of our shows to better understand how our program functions. Before we get into our discussion, we want to say thanks for questions coming from our audience of SmithWeekly, including Jeff S., Todd A., Gordon S., and Paul M. On the program today is a new guest of a returning company. Mr. Craig Steinke is joining us. Craig is the founder of Recon Energy Africa, a Namibian-focused conventional oil exploration company with exploration grounds in the Kavango Basin, northeast Namibia. Recon Africa is listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol RECO and also on the US OTC markets under the symbol RECAF. Mr. Steinke, welcome to the program. How are you?
Doing well, Andrew. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, Craig. First time on the podcast, so welcome. And Craig, how about your position on oil prices here, your outlook, global oil prices, situation in oil markets? What are your thoughts looking ahead here?
I'll just take it back to even 2019. The reason why I decided to take Recon Africa public in 2019 is because I became very positive or bullish on medium and long-term prospects for oil and natural gas. And so I've been bullish on both commodities since early, 2018, 2019, and continue to hold that outlook. A lot of this is why we're seeing robust natural gas and oil prices is a lot of it is political, where there's ill-conceived energy policies that have quelled the exploration for oil and gas to the point where it's driving energy prices higher. And I think you're going to continue to see that.
Those pressures are helping oil prices move higher, and I'm afraid to say oil is going to be with us for quite some time. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's often overlooked as something that's going to be dead tomorrow, and that's just not the case at all. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few months here, but I suspect it's going to be pretty healthy on those prices. And with that, maybe some renewed interest as people start to see the real outlook for it. Let's get into Recon here. Initial seismic results. The company's put out a little bit of news on that, and more is forthcoming, I believe. Talk about the interpretation of those results, initial results thus far, Craig, and what can investors expect in the first quarter with regards to an upcoming drill program and the potential targets based on those results?
Andrew, we just shot the first seismic program ever conducted in the Kavango Basin on the Namibia side. And that comprises 450 kilometers of two-dimensional seismic. So it's very much a regional shoot because the license area in Namibia is 6.3 million acres and 2.2 over in Botswana, collectively 8.5. But we're just focusing the seismic in Namibia right now, and so a regional shoot, 450 kilometers of seismic, and we have the results of that. We issued the preliminary results in, I believe it was late November. It's just the seismic supports our original geologic premises that this is the Kavango Basin is separate from the Owambo Basin. The Kavango Basin is a rift basin, and important to know that rift basins are responsible or host approximately 50% of the world's oil and gas production. And so and rift basins typically give rise to a lot of structural and stratigraphic traps that hold hydrocarbons. And that's exactly what we're seeing. So the seismic, importantly, has supported our original geologic premises that this is a rift basin, so that's very important. And then some of the seismic lines are on our corporate presentation, which is on our website, and it proves that there's a lot of stratigraphic and structural features to trap, which are trapping mechanisms for hydrocarbons. So it's we're now just refining the seismic and selecting drilling locations for an upcoming drilling campaign in the first half of 2022. And we believe that this drilling campaign, Andrew, will be key to commercializing the basin. So this is probably the most exciting time in the evolution of Recon Africa and the Kavango Basin.
Craig, talk about what the plan is from here and some of the new audience that haven't heard about this story or are tuning in or still looking at it. Talk about the sequence of next events for the company and what you plan to accomplish this year, 2022.
Well, for people who are just new to Recon Africa, I think it's important to know that we've discovered a new sedimentary basin in northeast Namibia and northwest Botswana. And we've been able to, because we were first in, we've discovered it, we're able to license the entire sedimentary basin, 8.5 million acres, which is, it's almost the size of Switzerland. So and what's so unique about it is one little company, Recon Africa, holds the rights to the entire sedimentary basin. And there's just, that I'm aware of, there's nothing like that in the industry right now. So, if we can commercialize the basin, it's very, very extremely high impact opportunity. Again, we've going back to last spring, because there were no wells drilled in the basin, again, brand new basin, nobody knew was there. We decided to drill the first 2 wells into the basin. We bought our own rig, had it refurbed in Houston, brought it over to Namibia, this time last year, spud the first of 2 wells. And in April of 2021, we proved that there was an active petroleum system in the Kavango Basin by way of light oil and high BTU gas. So that was a big success. And we followed that up with the seismic that we just talked about. Now the seismic is enabling us to drill into seismically defined traps, which again is going to be very, very key to commerciality. Simultaneous with this drilling program, we are going to enter into joint venture negotiations. We feel that it's going to be a very robust activity. I think there's going to be lots of good interest in this basin. The Namibian government is extremely supportive of this operation. There's a lot of activity going on offshore Namibia in deep water. You've got Shell, Total, ExxonMobil, etc., drilling offshore. And as a matter of fact, actually, it's still very preliminary, but yesterday there was an announcement that Shell has discovered light oil in the Cretaceous, which is one of the zones of interest in their offshore well that they're drilling right now. So that's good for Namibia. It's good for Shell. I mean, that's great news, and it shows that it's an indication that there's undiscovered petroleum systems in Namibia by way of Recon Africa's discovery in the Kavango and now offshore. So that's all very positive. But deep water offshore wells, they're about 10 years to commerciality on average, whereas we believe if we're successful in proving commerciality with this upcoming drilling program, the first half of 2022, we can be producing oil and gas, within about say mid-2023. It's very exciting for the Namibian government because, they, along with Botswana, suffer from energy poverty. The size of the Kavango has enough impact to change that for both countries. They can be self-sufficient in energy and be even exporting energy. So a lot of support from the government.
Craig, when do you expect to see some of those exploration program results come out? If you're going to get underway, maybe by the end of the first quarter, do you think news will start to come into the market second quarter, or do you see third quarter? What's the time frame investors can expect to see results?
Yeah, we'd expect results second and third quarter. Let's say third quarter of this year, on or before the third quarter, definitely.
How about to the capital structure here, Craig? Where are we on shares outstanding at the company? Tell us about the cash on hand and also the major shareholders.
Certainly. Well, we have about $41 million today in cash. So we've got enough capital to conduct the drilling program and another round of seismic. We own our own drilling rig. We have no debt. We can drill these wells, significantly cheaper than contracting it out because we own our own rig. With regards to shares outstanding, we have 187 million shares outstanding. That's the basic, fully diluted 214 million. The share price is around $6.40. So I think that gives us it's a little over a little over $1 billion market cap. And again, no debt. Major shareholders are largely management, including myself, and a very supportive investment bank in Canada, Haywood Securities. They hold, on behalf of their clients, they hold a lot of shares as well.
How about future funding here? I know you guys got some good capital there to see you through 2022, most likely here, but talk about future funding. When do you see that occurring potentially? I know it's dependent on maybe some of the ground success. Do you see it'll be conventional financing, or do you think it'll be perhaps a JV this time?
Well, given that we are entering into joint venture negotiations, I think that's going to cash will play a role in those joint venture negotiations. Been successful in the past on joint venturing properties, and as a part of that structure, taking in cash from joint venture partners, that'll be high on our list of priorities. So that, in conjunction with the capital we have in the Treasury, that should supply us with a fair amount of capital.
Craig, and with regards to Botswana, I know the focus right now is Namibia. That's the core focus for the company. Do you see that Botswana is going to get some attention in 2023? Do you see that Botswana is some work for some JV partners? Where does Botswana fit in at this point?
Well, it's all part of the Botswana lands are all part of the same basin. It's just as prospective as Namibia is, as far as we're concerned. We've had the Namibian licenses since early 2015, and so we've got work commitments, which of course we're dealing with, and we've actually exceeded in Namibia. The lands in Botswana we received we were granted the license in June 2020. So we're just getting started in Botswana. We're conducting stakeholder presentations right now, providing good information to the local people as to exactly what the operation is and what it isn't. So we're doing a lot of that groundwork right now. With regards to drilling operations, seismic operations, that's being conducted in Namibia, and we're really focused on commercializing the basin in Namibia first.
We've seen environmental groups like Discovery have been critical of Recon Africa and its work in Namibia. What would you say to these groups who hold out that Recon Africa is not good for communities in which it operates, that it doesn't enhance local environment, and that it's not good for Namibia? What would you say about that?
Yes, it's easy to say that oil and gas is not detrimental in many ways, but it's easy to say that when you have it. You can get up in the morning and flick a light on, and it's your house is warm in the winter, and you use natural gas or electricity powered by natural gas to cook your meals. But when you don't have that, it's having hydrocarbons is a lot more compelling. Especially if you're sitting on a big source of hydrocarbons. Just going from memory, I think that 62 or 64% of Namibians suffer from or below the poverty line. Half of the inhabitants, half of the citizens in Namibia don't have power. They don't have electricity. They're still cooking their breakfast, lunch, and dinner on an open fire. It's the only heat that they have. There's a long walk to water in the Kavango region in Namibia. Largely the women have to walk up to 10 kilometers a day just to have enough water, to provide for their families. I mean, what an arduous task that is. I mean, the community, particularly the Kavango region, it's the second most populated area in all of Namibia, but it's by far the poorest, and they need economic activity. They need jobs. Not only jobs, they need heat, they need electricity. And if there's oil and gas on commercial levels in the Kavango, I think it's their right and their government's right to be able to produce it.
It's interesting that, some of these parties think that this area should remain private playgrounds for certain groups, and there's no benefit to it, right? And the fact of the matter is petroleum products are very important. And then also beyond the use for exports, the economic subsistence that is available in Namibia through mining and through oil and gas and through natural resource development, because quite frankly, Craig, I'm not quite sure what else you're going to be able to do to have that type of economic profile if you're not going to have a responsible mining program in the country, a responsible oil and gas program, et cetera. I'm not sure what else can replace that. I can tell you it's not going to be safaris and some tourist activities. This brings me into the ESG component as well, Craig. Some of the initiatives that you guys have done and probably plan to do as the company grows here or is successful. Any comments on specific work that Recon Africa is doing at the people, environment, and country levels in terms of water, land set aside, potentially natural gas power plants that are mobile? What types of things are you guys working on?
I'd love to talk about the ESG program, but I would just like to take you back to the acceptance of fossil fuels. I think that transition is just it's a lot longer word than a lot of people want to believe it is, and I think a good indication of that is that the politics I'm seeing now, the politics are becoming more aligned with reality, where and a good example of that is December 31st or New Year's Eve of 2021. The EU now admits that nuclear and natural gas are part of the energy solution, and to where nuclear and natural gas are now on the list or the taxonomy for classifying eligible green investments. Because I think this is precipitated by what's going on with energy prices in Europe right now. I mean, it's reality and politics are now becoming better aligned. So anyway, having said that, that's just kind of a new piece of information here. But with regards to our ESG program, which is very, very important to the company, we have for an exploration company, I think I don't know if anybody, you see this elsewhere, but we're in the exploratory phase right now, and we have committed 10 million Canadian dollars to an ESG program in the Kavango Basin. And that largely comprises better education for the kids in the Kavango region, for the children. They normally kind of plateau at grade 8. And then the girls have to haul water and the boys are working in the fields. We're working with the two governors of East and West Kavango to help children continue with their education right up to grade 12 and then beyond to university. So that's part of our ESG program. Another part is wildlife. What a lot of people don't realize, Andrew, is, and people who have never been to the Kavango region, as a result of generational poverty, where bushmeat is high on the list of priorities of families who live in the rural districts, which can't be any surprise, as well as illegal sale of animal parts, or AKA poaching. The combination of the two has pretty much decimated the wildlife in here. So Recon Africa, certainly can't be the panacea to the problem, but we can certainly, if we're able to commercialize the basin, we can certainly help. And so what we've done is we have, as part of our ESG program, we've hired a wildlife team headed up by a former park warden and ranger to start by just identifying what wildlife remains in the area. And I think we feel that that's a good start. And then, there are ways to bring wildlife back. It's been done before, and we're convinced unequivocally that it can be replicated in the Kavango region. So that's part of our ESG program. But as I'd mentioned earlier, the big part of it is that it's just a tragic situation where the Kavango region is blessed with a very prolific freshwater aquifer that ranges 80 to 160 meters below the surface. But these wells, to drill and complete them, water wells, are $40,000 US. And sadly, the average family and village in the Kavango region, they just don't have that financial wherewithal to drill these water wells. So they have to walk up to 10 kilometers a day. And again, it's the women largely who do this, and preoccupies their day. They can only do it for so long that it contorts the muscles, breaks down their spine. They can't, and so it gets handed off to the younger girls, the teenage girls. They have to quit school, and this generational poverty just continues. So we've embarked on recognizing this problem, working with the local and national governments. We've embarked on a community water well drilling program. We've now drilled 14. Our goal is to drill 22 and water wells, and we're going to get that done this year. And if we're able to commercialize the basin, you can bet we will be drilling a lot more water wells.
Craig, I appreciate some color on that. And when these types of things are executed on and discussed from a company standpoint, that's there to do a number of things, and that includes enhancing the country, enhancing the community, finding something that's economic, and also, of course, enhancing shareholders as part of that first and foremost. But these groups who go on these campaigns, smear campaigns, last I checked, I'm not seeing them writing any checks. I'm not seeing them come up with programs to help the local community. I'm not sure what they're doing other than wasting people's time. You certainly don't see that type of effort coming out of some of these groups. How about overall strategy, Craig? As you guys move forward here, this is going to be a fairly big year for the company, 2023 as well. What do you see in this region in Africa? What kind of discovery size do you think is needed to attract a set of partners, key partners, and even maybe attract people looking to take over Recon Africa? What do you think is needed to really move the needle?
Again, Recon Africa is in an interesting position and where it holds the rights to the entire sedimentary basin. We've done our own analysis on the source rock and, how much oil and gas we believe that the basin could have generated. And I'm not going to throw numbers around, but, it's world class. The potential is world class. I mean, this is potentially a very, very large, potentially prolific basin. And I think it's make a dramatic difference to the general economics of Botswana and Namibia. With regards to joint venture partners, I think it's large enough. We have enough land over the basin. Like none of the lands is necessarily extraneous. I mean, we leased the lands over the basin itself. So I think most of the lands are opportune. So it's big enough to bring in serious joint venture partners to help us commercialize the basin, and more than one partner, because 8.5 million acres, that's a lot of land, and it's more than one, and one or two companies can develop by themselves at a rapid rate.
Certainly interesting here. I mean, you guys have had a fairly good run here on some expectations and some value for what you guys have there. And you and I could probably have an argument and discuss more in detail of what it should be worth in the market, but we'll leave that for another conversation. For potential investors who are on the sidelines listening, market cap of Recon Africa stands at about 1.2 billion Canadian. What would you say to them about considering the company at this stage and current price levels?
Well, I think that it's a very good time. I'll just go back to my point earlier that we've really de-risked the basin. Two major events have occurred. We've proven that there's an active petroleum system in this basin. This is a rift basin, and supported by our seismic program that we now have the results of. It's a rift basin, and you can see on the seismic that there's a whole family of different stratigraphic and structural traps. And I think it's just that seismic proves that it's a target-rich drilling environment, and there's big structures here to drill into. So now going into 2022, the next drilling campaign, we're going to be drilling into not just proving there's an active petroleum system, which was drilling without seismic, just sticking a hole in the ground. We proved that there's oil and gas here, but now this round of drilling, we're drilling into seismically defined traps. And if we can prove commerciality in this next drilling program, the valuation of the company is naturally going to change significantly because we hold the rights to the entire sedimentary basin.
Craig, and how about with the company size? How about potential upgrades on the listing? Is there any plans in 2022 to look at a TSX listing or maybe even a AMEX, New York Stock Exchange listing?
Yeah, so it is our goal to uplist in 2022.
Best way for investors to reach out to the company?
Grayson is our investor relations professional, and he's available. His contact information is on the website, Grayson Anderson. So I would start by reaching out to Grayson Anderson. He's fully aware of all aspects of the company, and that's a good start.
Craig, appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for the update, and looking forward to seeing further progress at the company. Best of luck.
Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate your time.